Most people using AI for language learning are using it wrong. Not because AI is bad at languages, it isn't, but because they're skipping steps and using it too early and expecting it to replace things it really shouldn't replace. This video is about where AI actually fits into language learning, not the hype version, but the real one. I'm currently learning Ukrainian. I speak English, Norwegian, Portuguese, and French, and across all of those languages, plus everything I built around the method I use, I've developed a pretty clear picture of where AI helps and where it doesn't. So let me walk you through it. The first thing to understand is that AI hasn't actually changed the starting point. If you're beginning a new language tomorrow, day one still looks the same. You get your word list. That's 200 high-frequency words that appear across almost any context in the language, plus 50 words tied to whatever you actually want to do with it. That's your foundation. AI can help you build the 50 interest words. You tell it what your hobby is, what content you eventually want to consume, and it generates the list. You translate those into your target language, and you start working through them at 5 words a day. That's it for day one. 5 words, that's where you start. What AI doesn't do is speed up that phase in any meaningful way. You could do 2 sessions a day and learn 10 words instead of 5, but then you're compressing the timeline and losing spaced repetition that makes the words actually stick. The bottleneck isn't a tool, it's the brain needing time to consolidate. No AI changes that. So for the first 50 to 60 days, your relationship with AI is mostly limited to building that initial word list. If you're using my app, you don't even need AI for that. It's already done. If you're not, the free word list in the description gets you the 200, and you can use AI to generate the 50 for whatever hobby you want. Once you have the foundation, everything changes. This is where AI becomes genuinely useful and genuinely underused. Most people at this stage are starting to consume content in their target language. They're watching dubbed shows, reading manga, playing games, and at some point they hit a sentence they can't understand, a phrase that doesn't make sense, a word they've seen 10 times and still can't place. Before AI, your options were a dictionary, a grammar book, or a native speaker willing to explain it. All of those have friction, and the dictionary, it gives you the definition but not the context. The grammar book gives you the rule but not the feel, and the native speaker, if you have access to one, will often just tell you, it's just how we say it, which is honest, but it's not useful. AI is better than all of this for that specific task. You paste the sentence, you ask what it means, you ask why it's constructed the way it is, and unlike a native speaker, AI can actually articulate the rule underneath the intonation. My wife asks me questions about Norwegian grammar sometimes, and my answer, sadly enough, most of the time, is I don't know, it just sounds right. AI can tell her why it sounds right, and that's a real advantage. But this only works well if you're using a paid version. This is something most people don't talk enough about. Free AI has very limited context. It doesn't remember what you've told it. It will forget that you're learning, in my case, Ukrainian, that you've already covered a specific grammar concept and don't need it explained again from scratch. Every 15 minutes, it's starting over. And language learning is deeply personal. What works for you depends on your interests, your existing languages, your specific gaps, and generic advice from a context-free AI is barely better than a textbook. Paid AI remembers. It builds a picture of you over time, and that personalization is what makes it actually useful, rather than just impressive looking. Now, when should you start talking to AI in your target language? My answer is that you shouldn't immediately, at least not just after the word list. The temptation is to jump straight into conversation because it feels like progress. But conversation is a production skill. You're generating language in real time, which is the hardest thing you do in a new language. If you go there before you build comprehension through content, you're going to feel like you don't know anything, because you don't yet. And that feeling kills motivation. The right order is word list, then comprehensible input, which means reading or watching series, and then conversation with AI. Not all at once. Do them in sequence. Once you've spent time consuming content and you're starting to feel the language becoming familiar, That's when you bring AI into the conversation side. And when you do, treat it like a person, not a search engine, not a translation tool, a person you're having a conversation with, who happens to be endlessly patient, always available, and capable of correcting you without making it awkward. That last part matters more than people admit. One of the real barriers to speaking a new language is embarrassment, the fear of sounding stupid in front of a real person. AI removes that barrier completely. You can make every mistake imaginable, ask it to repeat itself, ask why something was wrong, and try again, without any social cost. For a lot of people, that's the thing that finally gets them talking. It's also better than language exchange apps for this purpose. Apps like Tandem put you in contact with native speakers, which sounds ideal, but native speakers have their own agendas. They want to learn languages, and they're not always available. And anyone who spent time on Tandem knows that a lot of people that are more interested in finding someone to date than in helping you conjugate verbs. AI doesn't have that problem. Where AI still falls short is pronunciation. If you want to work seriously on your pronunciation, not just being understood, but actually getting close to native, you need a human, ideally in person. The issue with AI for pronunciation is that it's relying on your microphone, and microphones pick up something close to what you said, not exactly what you said. AI will understand your meaning even when your pronunciation is off, but a human tutor will catch the specific sound that's wrong, and that distinction matters if pronunciation is a priority for you. For most people, it isn't, at least not early. But when it becomes one, that's where you go human. One more thing worth saying, AI hasn't disrupted language learning yet. Not really. Most of the language learning content you see on YouTube is still the same advice it was 5 years ago. Apps, textbooks, conversation practice, immersion, AI barely appears. And I think that's a missed opportunity, because the tools are genuinely good now. They're just being used wrong, or not at all. The mistake most people make when they do start using AI for language learning is jumping straight to conversation before they have the foundation. They open ChatGPT, start typing in their target language, and feel immediately lost and conclude that either AI doesn't work or they're not ready to speak yet. Both conclusions are wrong. The problem is sequencing. You went to production before comprehension. Go back. Build the foundation, consume content until the language starts to feel familiar, and then come back to AI. If you already have that foundation, here's what to actually do. Open whatever AI tool you use, set it up with context, tell it what language you're learning, what your interests are, where you currently are in the process. If you're paying for it, that context will persist. Then just start using it. Send messages in your target language. Ask it to respond the same way. Ask it to correct you when you get something wrong. Ask it to explain why something was wrong, not just what the right version is, and use it for the things it's genuinely good at, which is explaining rules that native speakers can't articulate, being available at any hour, and never making you feel embarrassed for making mistakes. Don't use it for pronunciation. Don't use the free version for anything serious. Also, don't skip the foundation phase, because AI makes conversation feel more accessible than it actually is. The tool is real. The hype around it is mostly not. And the right version of using AI for language learning is quieter and more specific than most people expect. It fits into the method, it doesn't replace it.